Coming tonight to do this because I know it's time out of your schedule. I know it's turned out to be kind of a rainy, cold evening, so maybe there isn't a lot to do outside. But I know you have other things that you want to get done. We feel that this is important for the Levee district to put together a program with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and that's what the purpose behind this is to start that process. That if we're going to look at donating property to Fish and Wildlife, we have to give somebody the authority to do this. And I don't think this board wants to meet all the time to discuss that. There were enough meetings in the beginning that I think everybody got worn out and tired, and the agreement kind of had certain requirements, and we've met all those requirements, so we can make this work with getting that authority to one of the groups, either the city or Levee District 3, and we've determined that Levee District 3 would be the best to oversee it for this process. So, if we do a roll call.
Jeff Eidman.
Here.
Gary Smith.
Here.
Tom Quincy.
Here.
Joe Siebert.
Here.
Vern Bowman.
Here.
Tom Oakenfood.
Here.
And then we have a quorum.
Okay. So approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? So at this time, I would either recommend that you elect a chairman, or if you want to keep the same chairman, elect a secretary. We have to have somebody countersign the resolution that would be required that we're passing tonight.
I'd make a motion that Vern Bowman be the chairman. I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? And for nomination for secretary.
Sue, I nominate Sue.
Sue's not on the board.
Oh, she's
I make a motion Tom be the secretary. What's your last name? What's your last name? Oakenfood. No. So what's his name again? That's right. That's who I want to make sure it's clear and on the record. Thank you. I got you covered.
Not Tom.
Yes, sir.
I'll second that.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right.
Thank you.
You have a chairman and a secretary.
Okay, the two for representing the city is who? Gary?
Right here, sir.
Jeff.
Gary Smith.
And
Jeff
And Jeff
Jeff,
Eidman.
okay.
The mayor's here. By the way the agreement is written up is that he is here to break a tie, in case that would happen.
Okay. Well, the next thing on the agenda is a public forum. Do we have any public forum? Anyone from the public?
Don't look like it.
Doesn't look like it. Communications from the public. Let's see, other agency or government?
We've not received anything from Corps of Engineers or any other groups.
Okay. And new business, resolution 20-01, assigned property conveyancing authority.
So if you look on the back of your agenda, it's on same as the resolution. It's a resolution of the St. Genevieve Joint Levee Commission authorizing Levee District 3 to convey certain real estate from the St. Genevieve Joint Levee Commission.
Okay, Levee District 3 would assume the responsibility of all maintenance and repair, which that's all true and done. But I had a question, I guess for the attorney, or the city, when this gets conveyed, and then on the next, whereas the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has expressed a desire to obtain certain real estate from the St. Genevieve Joint Levee Commission to convey, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats for the continued benefit of the American people. Is there a defined area that's going to get conveyed, or what was the original city wishing to do with this, I guess is a...
So if you look at there's an outline there of the total property. Yep, that's the total levy property that we are looking at in that area. There's other smaller pieces elsewhere.
Thank you.
So what you're looking at is anything east of the levee would be considered to be conveyed to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. We have to go through and survey it before we can do anything. So that'll be something that the Board of Aldermen have to decide is what kind of money they want to spend, what to budget for it, and then do the survey. So that survey would come back to Levee District 3 and say, here is the property that we are looking at conveying to Fish and Wildlife. They would be considering it as well, and there would probably be some modifications to whatever we draw up, even though we're trying to work in concert with them. But then you would have a plat, a new plat, that the city will have approved of a lot split of property to be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
So if I could address the legal side of it and I don't represent necessarily the commission, technically I represent the city. It was brought to my attention because the Fish and Wildlife Service had interest in this, developing the land for the fish and wildlife in that area between the levee and the river. And so then the question is, how do we go about conveying that real estate to them, subject to easements as far as water flow and the maintenance of the levees? And the original agreement that created the Joint Levee Commission is a creation of course, three entities. The three entities represented here, the city, Levee District 2, and Levee District 3. And that agreement empowered the Joint Levee Commission to obtain property and the easements and all that. And it has language in there that after the project was completed and the accounting was done, essentially Levee District 3 has the management responsibilities of the levee, which you all know practically, and that's what has happened. But there's nothing in the agreement that says anything about conveying real estate once it's obtained. And so in talking to Happy about trying to get this thing accomplished, we talked about different options as far as deeding the property now or maybe to the city and then the city conveys it. None of that really would work practically because, number one, we don't know what area the Fish and Wildlife wants. We have to have it surveyed, we have to have a legal description of it. And then two, who's the entity that's actually going to be conveying the property subject to those easements? And technically, the property is deeded to the Joint Levee Commission, not Levee District 3 or Levee District 2 or the city. And we don't really want to pull that property out of the commission's authority to the city because the Levee District 3 is the one that's managing it. So if you approve this resolution today, all you're doing today is authorizing Levee District 3 to convey property to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service at some future date if Levee District 3 determines that that is appropriate. And there's an argument to be made that Levee District 3 may already have that authority because once the project was completed and the final accounting was done, in the agreement it says that Levee District 2's right of representation on the commission falls off, and once the payments were made that were required of the city, then the city's representation falls off. But again, going back, but there's nothing in the agreement that authorizes Levee District 3 to convey the property away. And so the thought was to make sure that everybody was still on board as far as releasing property to a third party. We felt like we needed to have this commission come back together and authorize the conveyance or authorize Levee District 3 to convey the property. So the long and the short of it is it would be uncertain whether any individual entity, including Levee District 3, had the right to convey any real estate to anybody else. They can obtain the property, but there's nothing about conveying it. And so this would allow Levee District 3 to have clear authority to convey it to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service if they decide to do that at a future meeting of Levee District 3.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You understand that, Ogie? Pretty well? I guess, so then, it had always been my concern with certain parts of it, like our borrow pit area, our 50 acre borrow pits, and some of our mandatory tree screens, 100 foot along the river and 100 foot along the levee, that stuff could and would probably remain in the levee district's 3's possession and convey. Was the city wishing to, or was the Forest Service wishing to purchase or acquire land, get the ground from inside or just outside the levee, or both, or what was the, is there a commitment or anything binding with them at this point?
The city has signed an agreement to pursue this. Everything that I understand is the east side. That's what they want to focus on and create natural areas for nature to return or to be use as an educational ground. So there'll be some hiking trails. You'll have easement access, easements that you'll need over there. You'll need to keep easements on the toe and that, but they're not looking for anything on the inside. I think they've helped us with certain projects on the inside.
Yes, they have.
With the different trees, but I don't think they haven't expressed interest in taking over that.
Everything I've been to and understand, it's on the other side. It's the river side of the levee.
Same here, that's what.
Nothing on the inside of the levee,
Okay.
other than assist in mowing, brush hogging, where there are trees that are planted, which they've done. So.
Right.
You said you had a borrow site. Can you still use that borrow site, or will that?
That's outside the levee. That if it's in the levee district's possession, and will the levee district actually be the one assigning it over after that?
You're not really assigning it over. It'll be part of that area that you would convey, but you're asking that they retain that. I think they want to keep it like a little lake area that it is now, and we retain easement access so that we can get in there.
Yeah, you'd still be able to get in and get borrow out.
Right, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah,
You still be able to,
Yes.
in a disaster.
And their understanding with the tree screen, because that's what through the core too. I mean, that's it all.
That's my understanding too.
Right. So that was our biggest concern when we brought it up with our levee commission.
The way I understand this is that you'll have the levee district 3, your group will have the power to say what they can have and what they can't have. Or in a nutshell.
Well,
But we're just trying to get you, instead of having all these different entities involved, the levee district that's maintaining it, which knows what they need, have the power to work with the Fish and Wildlife on what they get and what they don't get. And there might be stipulations, well, hey, they know that borrow pits, you might need that one day.
Yeah.
We might need that.
That's a man.
Yeah, and that's in the original document.
It's a permitted borrow
Sure,
area, 50 acres.
So,
And we don't want to lose that.
no.
Yeah,
Right.
we may need that one.
Right.
Hopefully we don't, but we may.
And I think they understand that because they do have other areas up the river like ours that are similar, so they've had to deal with these kinds of issues.
Yeah. Okay.
And they work hand in hand with the Corps of Engineers too. They're gonna be working with the Corps to get some money from them to do this project, so.
And David Human was in on some of this conversation, is that correct?
You communicate with Happy about it, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I've now kind of communicated with him directly. Basically, Happy's been the middleman as we kind of work through how we get this done. Like I said, I just want to make sure we're clear. All we're doing today is saying the Levee District 3 has the authority to do it if you want to. And then you're going to have, if you want to go through this, then you're going to be coordinating with the city too, because the city's going to be paying for the surveying, but that's kind of a separate side of it. And this just makes sure that the title is clear, should you want to do something. That way the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service knows they have a clear title of the property,
Okay.
subject to whatever easements you put on the deeds.
Well, that was that's what our wishes was to do what the city wanted, to wildlife and what needed to be done.
Right.
It was originally paid for with local taxes also collected for the levee.
We thought this was an easier process. Bob Mueller kind of suggested it because we had looked at already, we talked about dedicating it all to the city. Well, that meant a number of deed easement changes and a number of other issues that we didn't want to deal with. I didn't think we needed to deal with. So if we do this simple process, then you still keep control of those easements and access easements, flow easements, so that there aren't any issues in the future.
Okay. Any of you guys got any questions?
Well,
I'd kind of like to know exactly what are they gonna do to the fish and wildlife, I mean, with this
So
area.
if you look at the bigger map, there's where it's circled in red. That's the total Kurtz farms, the M&M farms that were dedicated, or I'm sorry, not dedicated, but they were taken over by the levy, the joint levy commission.
They were purchased fee simple.
Right. So if you see where the levee is, it's down more or less the middle of that property. Anything to the east, so anything to the right, towards the river, is what Fish and Wildlife is wanting to access. So that's what they would like to take over as part of their reserve area.
So some of that is cropland, correct?
Yes, it is. There's about 50 acres, I believe. And Brian Kurtz is the one that maintains it now.
So what happens to the cropland then? What are they gonna do with that?
That hasn't been determined by Fish and Wildlife, but I understand that they can't lease it like the city leases it. It would become natural area, so they would turn it into a feeding ground or a landing area or something probably for birds. It would just go back to whatever natural state it would have been in.
So it couldn't be cropped anymore then,
No.
correct?
No, we've discussed that with Mr. Kurtz, so he's aware of it.
He is aware.
And they've had some issues over the last 3 or 4 years anyway with the property being flooded, and then they have to clean it.
Debris, yeah. Talk to me about that.
And everyone was looking for a reduction in how much we're charging. This year it turned out pretty good, but in years past they've had issues. So I think it is, they've got a number of other acres that they also crop for us, so it will cut back on the amount that they would do.
I mean, he's okay. I mean, he knows about this and,
And it would be a multi-year process. It isn't going to happen overnight. So.
Yeah, it's years in the making here. You're just getting the ball rolling on it.
Right,
So,
right.
So they can make accommodations or whatever they need to do to plan for the future.
And this is just one step in the process.
yeah, this is one step right here.
Yeah.
If we could ever get our levee that we're wanting to build together over by the railroad tracks, to keep from building up under the bridge. If we could build that thing with this dirt, could we use that dirt? Would that be available?
I don't know what the rules, they've changed. We were dumping dirt. We couldn't cross the levee with any dirt from one side to the other. Inside dirt had to be dumped on the inside if we cleaned the inside ditches, and the outside silt had to be dumped on the outside if we cleaned out of the riverside of the ditches. Now that's reversed.
Until this year.
This year, and one thing that opened our eyes is our dump area. We realized we needed more area, and we did find out that the Joint Levee Commission did own a couple acres next to where we're at, which will help us a lot for our stockpile. Because we've just got a lot of dirt in there, a lot of silt, and it's going to continue to grow. So, yeah, this is, looks to me like a good step to go forward on, and if any more questions, we continue to ask. Anybody's got a question? You got any, Jeff, or city, mayor?
No, I think it's just, like you said, it's a good step in the right, cleans everything up, and then gives you sort of, you've seen you're handling this, so you guys have been maintaining this levee for several years, you know what you need, and the city doesn't need to be making decisions over there. But the levee board needs to be making those decisions on what they need and what to keep. You're more informed about it. So.
At this point, I guess maybe the term, do we, the levee district, have the easement or the owned land under the levee?
So I've not seen any legal work, but it's my understanding that the Joint Levee Commission is the owner of this real estate.
Okay. As levee district 3, I was always under the impression from early on that we was going to get the all the levy, rights under the levy and everything else, so this would just be part of what was originally,
That appears to be the original intent, but the way it's worded, it says the levy District 3 is the manager of the levy. It doesn't say anything about ownership or being able to convey it. It just says the levy District 3 is the current manager, and the other two entities lose their representation on the commission. And the reason why we're getting back together today is basically get the three public entities to authorize this particular action because the agreement's silent on it. And it just clears up and makes sure that Levee District 3 has that authority.
Are you concerned about mining rights?
no, but just the, no, that didn't enter
Okay.
my mind, but no, just that, well, you guys, do you have, you just got easement across your levee ground, or you don't know, you haven't purchased the real estate it sits on? It's on private property as it stands now.
Yeah, this is on purchased property. So this is all on purchased, this is
Yeah,
purchased property.
public, yeah, well, good, yeah. Any other questions anybody got for anybody?
Do you need a motion to approve, like we would normally do? I would make a motion to approve resolution number 20-1.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
A second by Jeff. Any further discussion? Any questions at all?
I don't think Levee District 2 is ready to turn this all over. I mean, we need to go back and talk to the rest of our board before we approve it, don't you think?
Maybe.
We're talking the acreage that
You're saying
was
everything's
the
up.
purchase property only.
Yeah. I know, but Joint Levy Commission basically owns it, or did own it. So we're just giving up our right to that property for nothing, basically. Right? Am I not looking at this thing right, or what?
You're not actually giving up your right
Yeah, I
to
don't
the
know.
property. It's just that there will be a section that can be conveyed to Fish and Wildlife. And Levee District 3 has that opportunity to do that. Otherwise, it's this commission that would have to meet every time to move forward with every process.
I talked to some of the board members, and they talk like, I mean, Tom brought up that spur levee up there, and we've been running some roadblocks there, and if we give this up or turn it over to Levee District 3, we'd like to have something in return, and if we could do something on that spur levee and get that thing rolling, would make everybody happy, I think.
So, and again, technically, it's the Joint Levee Commission that owns all of that property. So it isn't like the previous agreement where there was a section of Levee District 2 that had to be purchased.
Exactly.
Yeah, that isn't within this area.
Yeah.
But yes, I think, if we need to work on another project, we can. But this would be separate of that.
I mean, I'm not saying we're against this project, not at all, but once we sign this, then Levee District 3 has the right to do whatever they want with it. They can.
As far as it goes to Fish and Wildlife, that's it. They're limited as to the scope of what they can do.
Yeah.
It's not that you're assigning all these properties over to Joint Levee, which is kind of what we were thinking early on, is how we wanted to pursue it, with assigning all the properties and deeds to the city. And the city would have control and be able to do with it as we needed. This is just a limited resolution saying, we want to continue to work with Fish and Wildlife. We think this is a project that would be good for the area, for recreation, tourism. So that's why we're limiting it and talking about limiting it to Fish and Wildlife, not, Levee District 3 gets to handle and maintain and do it as they wish to with all the property.
And then this, my question is, this is, I know you've been talking about this new addition to this levee. I don't know how detailed it is, haven't heard a lot, because I guess you're just starting on this. There's a lot of permits. It could be years in the making anyway. And it would be on the south side of the, it wouldn't even affect this property because it'd have to be on the other side of the spillway that goes out to the river, right?
Yeah.
So this property is not even going to affect this. Now, as far as material, maybe I could understand that, but if you have use of the borrow pit, which they'll control that, then that's a possibility there. So, but as far as what we're talking about here, it's in that area. I don't see where it's even out of that boundary right there, I believe.
Right, I realize that.
Yeah.
It's not on the same property, but we just need that spur levee is a big deal for us. It's a big deal for everybody. The railroad, the Marina Bridge, it's just a big deal, and we're having a lot of problems getting it done. When we started, the railroad was in favor of it. Everybody was in favor of it. Now the railroad backed out, and you would think all the mess we have under that bridge every year when we got to close it up, that they would be the first ones that'd be in favor of it.
Yeah.
But not.
Well, and I see what your point is there, but I'd hate to see this, what we're trying to do here, get stifled for years of uncertainty whether that could never get built. It might never, there's a lot of ifs and buts that go into that, which is I think it's a great plan, because I witnessed what you guys do under that bridge. But I'd surely like to see this go forward here, because it's not, we could be 10, 15, 20 years out, and we could still, somebody else would be sitting here talking about it.
And Fish and Wildlife is ready to go now. So they're in hand right now. And this is a benefit for everyone. I'm a teacher, students, education, our locals, our residents. It'd be water access for the first time. They'd actually be able to see the Mississippi. It would be good for tourism. It's a win all the way around.
Yeah. Well, it's big for recreation. And that was
Huge.
one of the deals that sold this levee in the process,
Right.
was with this levee comes some recreation. And I think it's just, and developing and working over there, I was not, people approached me about the city doing something over there. Well, you all know, you guys are on the river, I work on the river, what the water does to that, so I don't want to spend city money and taxpayer money maintaining that when Fish and Wildlife would do that. So, and the Corps engineers, so.
In our initial request, recreation was phase 3 and 4.
Right.
Or 4, wasn't it?
Right.
That's right.
And that included a bunch of recreation.
That's right.
Like it was going to talking about paths maybe up north or south of Gabourey, and little picnic areas and walk trails, and then trails to the river, or biking trails, hiking trails along the levee. And that was part of phase 3 and 4, which that really went south and will never happen.
Because it was, they were wanting to put, well, you guys talking about the railroad, they wanting to put, the plan was to put a bridge across, from the levee across to Main Street. Well, my goodness, working with it, that ain't gonna happen. So this is something which we have access, the city has access to this area through Division Street, that goes back there. So it's just, and it's a great place to make the crossing, because it's the only safe crossing we have to get access, because on the south end of that is you're in a curve, and on the north end you got a wall that's blocking you. You can't see if a train's coming, and this is good access getting back there,
And this tonight doesn't do anything against your access whatsoever. All we're doing tonight, and unless I'm wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, is just consolidating, bringing us together into one levee so that they can work with the Fish and Wildlife to get what you need, to get your concerns addressed at a one-stop shop, as opposed to having several meetings. So tonight, we're just saying, let's put it all in one bucket, then move forward, show the Fish and Wildlife that we have good intentions, that we want to move forward so that they don't think that we're giving them, the runaround, and then you guys can make sure that you get what you want as you work forward with Fish and Wildlife, access to everything else, etc. Tonight, we're just saying let's consolidate so we can show good faith and that we're moving forward under one flag. so that you can work to make sure you can maintain all the sites and things you need.
So who owns the property now on the other side of the levee?
I guess most of it would be Chris Kurtz's, wouldn't it? Where we're talking about going with the connecting lever?
No, I'm talking about
No.
over here right now.
Oh.
In the joint levee, in this commission, who owns that property over
Well,
there?
the city, I guess, owns it, don't they?
Joint Levee Commission.
It's
Joint Levee Commission owns it.
It's deeded to Joint Levee Commission.
Yeah, Kurtz is deeded to the levy district, so.
So this commission, the joint levee commission, actually is the caretakers of the property. We don't own it, we're caretakers.
Caretakers is Levee District 3, by agreement. The city watches the funds and is responsible for whatever we need to do to pass on to Levee District 3 to maintain, or whatever's outside of that, then it's our responsibility to maintain, such as grass cutting. Outside of that, I mean, it's just listed in, because that was an entity put together to buy property. The Joint Levee Commission was, and they're the ones that were listed as the deed owners.
Well, that was my point. You guys you represent, and this is all new to me, because I heard of Levee District 2, and now you're the big field south, and that's your district, from the arena south,
Yeah.
is what you guys maintain, that levee all the way down to, I guess, Kaskaskia. So,
Maybe to answer your question, so this property is owned by the Joint Levee Commission. After when this project was completed, Levee District 2 was supposed to get $146,000 paid to them for easements and compensation for lost tax revenue. And so they got their compensation, and technically when they got that compensation and the accounting was done, they lost representation on the.
So Levee District 2 don't even have a dog in this hunt right
You
here.
can make an argument that neither the city nor the Levee District 2 has a dog in this fight.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do by having this one-time meeting is just to clarify that the Levee District 3 is authorized to convey property out of the Joint Levee Commission. And so a very strong argument can be made, they already have that authority because of the managers of it, and the other two entities no longer have representation on the commission. I just wanted to make sure that there were no doubts that the Levee District 3 was authorized to convey the property to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So this is really a hyper-technical meeting to make sure that there's no issues with regard to the property being transferred to a third party, because the agreement was silent as to that. Because it just says Levee District 3 is the manager. Once the project was completed and the accounting was done and Levee District 2 was paid, then Levee District 3 is in control, but it doesn't say anything about conveying it. And so that's the reason why I suggest we have basically one final meeting of the Joint Levee Commission, just to clarify it so that so we didn't have hiccups with higher-ups of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service when we have you guys sign the deed, that the person signing is going to be from Levee District 3. So I wanted a resolution from the Joint Levee Commission saying that Levee District 3 had the clear authority to convey it, which is implied by the agreement, but is not stated in the agreement.
And if there need to be future meetings to resolve the issues, with that, the train area, I'd be happy to organize that and put it together. But that's really outside of what we're looking at today.
What do you think, Mr. Chairman?
Well, we do have a motion and a second on the board and I asked for any further discussion. And is there any further discussion? You understand? This property was bought from the Kurtzes with the tax collected for this purpose that they voted on in '74 when we formed the levee district, and the city collected the taxes for the matching funds for the whole project, which included in purchasing all the right-of-ways, the flooding rights, the drainage rights, the whatever rights we needed. And then the Joint Levee Commission, as I've seen it, remember, became another entity that had to be, because we was infringing on the property of Levee District 3.
The districts overlap.
The district overlapped, and as the attorney stated, there was a court hearing on it, and you guys got reimbursed for your losses, plus it was a different figure than I think that you mentioned, but
This was just from the original agreement that I have. I don't have
yeah.
any subsequent.
Well, the final thing was different, I think, and what I think the attorney's saying is that we purchased and reimbursed for the losses over all the years, and it was gone, and however it went before some commissioners and court, and this ground that we're talking about conveying here to our district, to us, was paid for by our city tax levy, a levy tax that everyone pays. And, well, this was really, our matching grant was from a special tax to create the cash to be our 20% for the total cost of the levy. So, we do have a motion on the floor in a second, and unless I hear something different, I think we need to vote on it, or do you want to?
You probably need to vote on it. We can do a roll call vote.
You got a motion and a second to approve the resolution.
I don't know what to say.
I know Joey and Tom want to talk to their other members.
Yeah, they're.
I kind of agree with them. You're not really getting anything. You're just turning your part over.
Well, they don't have a part.
They don't have a part.
If we don't
have
have
You don't have a part, we're just
If we don't
asking you
have
to
a part,
consolidate the authority.
If we don't have a part, what are we doing here?
You're just making sure that we can cross our T's and dot our I's and everything's tickety-boo so we can make sure that he can move forward with the wildlife. That's what you're here for.
Yeah, that's exactly what we're here for. You don't, your part, Levee District 2 has been compensated for.
Well, that was land where they overlapped. That didn't have nothing to do with this.
But this
Apparently, this belongs to the Joint Levy Commission, apparently, or we have
It
to.
does. Yeah, that's right.
So if we turn it over to Levy District 3, then we're out of it.
This would authorize, this board is a joint levy commission. It's not Levy District 2 or 3 or the city. And so this would authorize a separate board, which would be Levy District 3 to convey the real estate. That's right.
You guys are representing your district.
No, they're representing the joint levy board. The district,
from
Levee
their
District 2 they're not a player in this. You're the joint levy board, which hasn't convened for forever. And all this is doing is, you've been in control of this property for a lot of years, making decisions on this property. The Levee District 3 has, and been doing all this. And what we're going to do tonight is make it official with that proclamation to continue to do that. So, and if you decide, the joint levy board, the Levee District 3 might decide, we don't want to give anything to Fish and Wildlife. That's your decision.
Right.
That's not our decision. It's not this commission's decision, Levee District 2. It's going to be Levee District 3,
Right.
which maintains this levy to where this piece of property is involved here. That's what it is. That's what it's all about. So, and you got a motion and a second, and I'd take a vote.
And I've always been with an attorney when we had a joint levy commissions, and I always asked the attorney, what should I do?
Well, I mean, there's a motion and a second. I think it'd be appropriate to do a roll call vote because you have an even number of people, and the mayor's here to break a tie if that comes to that. So I think it's ready for a vote.
Okay.
And procedurally, that's what unless there's more discussion, you just call for a vote and do a roll call vote and see what happens.
Any further discussion? If not, go ahead.
Can I talk to Joe in private a little bit or not?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
fine, yeah.
You can talk.
Take a pause in the meeting.
They're representing some people, they gotta be responsible.
But they're really not representing people.
Well, they are.
They're on the joint commission.
They always were.
On the joint commission, but
Yeah.
I think what they're afraid of is losing something that they don't even have.
Right.
Stop.
No, it's still a quorum, you can still talk if you want to. It's just two of the members of the board are stepped out. It's
Yeah, let's
still a
just,
public
let's not
meeting.
talk. We'll just wait for them to come back.
No, it's the battery went dead. You guys talk so much that it died.
too much.
That's right.
There, I got a red light.
They're agreeing with us on, from the standpoint that we both like to see this little levee that would help us protect an area that we have some seepage problems on by adding this levee that both of us like to see there. And I understand where they're coming from,
But you can
But
still
yes.
talk about that with Fish and Wildlife after we give the authority to
Sure.
you, which is already yours to begin with.
right?
We're just making it official. You understand what we're saying?
Well,
You have the authority, sir.
I know exactly
They just need to make it
where the money
official.
came from to buy this.
You can still have these conversations, these concerns can be addressed after this meeting. Really, it shouldn't even be addressed in this meeting. It should be addressed after we deal with the Fish and Wildlife, in my opinion. This is just a check the box, which is becoming painful.
That's all right. It's all gonna work out.
So how about those Cardinals? Sorry.
Oh, what's your prediction on the river?
It's, you know, it's,
It never got to 3 feet like you said.
it did in St. Louis, it got to 1.4. Not down here, it did. But it did get up, it got to 1.4 up here, up to St. Louis, but yeah, it did.
Just 1.4 feet.
At St. Louis, yeah. But down here, it's, that gauge is, it's a little higher down here. It got close though, didn't it?
It got close.
What do we hear, like?
You say you haven't seen low water in this like this for
No,
a
I
while.
haven't, I haven't seen.
You
water
sure got a lot of
like
work done down there you wouldn't have normally got done.
What do we at right
So
now?
cold, I put it on
Huh?
No, we're,
We were here, they said that my brother got over 3 inches of snow last night
It'd
in
be
Scott,
good to get
northern
them.
Michigan.
We're
They're
gonna get one
expecting
to get a
6 more in
gully
the next
washer
2
to come
days.
through. And-
Yeah, but it's a river of 9 feet, so that's gonna keep
Vacation,
the
especially
portion
as a
of
kid,
the
we
part
used to
that
go
needs
to
to be
soccer
washed out.
Yeah,
I
that's
always
true.
wanted to was like,
The last
up there,
400,
I've been up there.
Yeah, you're right.
I was born and raised in Petoskey, Michigan, which is probably about 2 hours north, well, no, 4 or 5 hours north of Saugatuck, around the lake. My parents got 18 feet of snow last year. Yeah, so I mean,
Nice to visit.
let me put it this way. Our high school had a cross-country ski team. Not just a cross-country team, it was wild. It was wild.
But we at least got an intake.
It doesn't hurt. I mean, they're involved.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Now, if we can get the city to take care of their portion of the
It's
creek.
just that by the agreement, there's a missing piece that we felt that we needed to get everybody together. Otherwise, we'll.
Yeah, that's,
We can work on it.
yeah, I think you're done. I think the fall rains have come, so we're gonna go back. And I'm hoping so, because it's
Convey
killing.
something to the.
We got great
Fish
freight
and Wildlife,
rates,
the
and
US federal
we
government.
can't haul
Have
12
them
foot
come back and
barges
say, well,
because of
you
the
didn't
low
do
water
this.
that's coming back up.
That's what.
Got freezing rain as far south as Texas.
And Fish and Wildlife is ready to play. I mean, they're in it to win it, so we don't want to drag our feet and look like we don't want it.
And they still have some things that they need to get resolved on their end and for
Thankfully,
this.
we have just a
So we're
cold
not
rain, and
behind
that's the
the
way
eight
it's gonna
ball
stay.
and we're rushing to get everything done.
Right.
So we need to complete this process.
Copy that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of,
And then, in the
Bonuses.
next 2 years, 3 years, however long it takes to work this out.
copy that, exactly.
Oh, there's 14, that makes a difference.
Yeah, if there's another piece that we need to work with on Levee District 2.
These things are
that's sort of
hot
between the two.
after a while, you know it? It's like,
Because Vern was telling me about that.
I usually wear this at school because I don't get too close to the kids. I didn't realize how hot these were.
You should cut a hole in it.
You know, that sounds like something I would end up doing. well, I don't understand why it wasn't protected. I go,
We'd have 14.
you see the ones that, you've seen the ones that were on TV and stuff, the jokes, they had the whole
Why would you ever
straw.
need to go into that borrow pit?
It was like, that was awesome.
That's a designated.
Someone got to cut like
It's
a
permanent ball pit.
What would you ever use it? What would you ever need to use it?
I have kids that
Or
like
breach,
have it
so,
down below
so
their
if a
nose.
levee breach,
And you have to keep saying to them, you can't have it below your nose.
so,
Valley's volleyball
I
match.
was wondering.
They're walking around like this.
You get a.
I watch the football games, and that's what the coaches are doing.
Well,
It'll need a whole.
yeah.
Just like,
Okay.
teaches first and second grade, and
Yeah.
she says it's just,
I was down there and you just.
because they chew on them, you know, and they.
They cough and sneeze in them, and you don't realize until you have this on you, what exactly kids go through in a day. It's like gross. And I deal with teenagers, so I'm at the high school level, so I'm kind of like, thank goodness.
A little safer, but.
Yeah, a little cleaner.
It didn't take it out.
You hope.
there, But
And
they
then
took
like,
it out from the
They'll
other side.
drop them and they'll pick them up, and then they want to trade.
Yep.
you know.
Oh no, trading's big. Trading's
Well,
big.
I always thought, well, if there was a
I don't.
free-
Yours looks cool. I like it because some of them have patterns.
then you.
So like,
you
can
build-
I try that on? Oh
Or,
my god.
or just patching.
And I'm over there with my Lysol. I swear to God, I finally got some Lysol. It took forever. And I tease the kids. They're way away from me. I'm like, okay, today we can start class. They laugh.
I know probably more about this tie-in than anybody.
I think they think I'm crazy anyway.
Yeah, that thing, yeah.
But it's funny. And I have this room
But that.
air
there's a lot
purifier.
of permits, there's a lot of-
Yeah, I bought it so it cleans the air for the computers and for flu. So when I want to mess with them, I just turn on high and I can't hear them. Can't hear me.
Okay, call them meeting order.
I will get it done.
You guys get a chance to, any comments?
Are we, seems to me like it was a mistake made that the ownership of this should have been transferred to Levee District 3 when the maintenance and all that other stuff was transferred to them? Is that why we're here, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been cleaner. Of course, it's, hindsight's 20/20. You wouldn't think that a levee district is going to convey real estate to anybody. It's going to be a levee district, and so you wouldn't have contemplated Fish and Wildlife Service or some other federal agency would want to have some sort of wildlife thing there, or the Corps of Engineers. So I think it just wasn't contemplated when the agreement was set up. But like I said, I think it seems like it's implied because the other entities are dropping off once their tasks are completed. And so I'm just wanting to have it clarified that the manager, essentially as part of the management duties, can convey the real estate if necessary. And this resolution is limited purposely so it can be conveyed to the Fish and Wildlife Service. So if they wanted to just give it away to somebody else, they wouldn't be authorized by this resolution to do it because it's for this specific purpose. So so the short answer is yes. I think it could have been a little bit clearer in the delegation of duties and responsibilities and authority to Levee District 3, other than just say they're the manager of it. Because they are. They are the entity that's responsible for this levee district. The Joint Levee Commission property management is solely the responsible of Levee District 3. Levee District 2, if you said, well, you guys shouldn't do that, it'd be no different than some guy in the street saying it. You have no authority to limit the ability of Levee District 3 to manage the Joint Levee Commission property. Same thing with the city. The city can't tell Levee District 3 how to manage this property that's owned by the Joint Levee Commission because Levee District 3 has that authority now that the project has been completed. And so the city can't say, well, you have to give us something for this either. It's just clarifying that they have the authority to do it.
So who actually owns the property?
The Joint Levee Commission.
You don't own it. I guess you're more like managers.
No, they own it and they manage it. The Joint Levee, I'm sorry, the Joint Levee Commission doesn't manage it. The Joint Levee Commission is the owner. The manager is Levee District 3 because it wasn't conveyed by deed from the commission to Levee District 3.
Which probably should have been done when.
Right.
Well, as I stated earlier, I felt all along that we were gonna get the footprint of the levee and all the easements and the ditches and everything else, and that's never been done.
Right, and so that it's like a step that's kind of implied that that was the intention all along, but it wasn't done, so now we have this little gap in there. Okay, who has the authority to do something with this property? And what this is saying is if you're conveying it to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Levee District 3 can sign the deed, essentially.
And you need that because they have some stipulations from the court, that screen, the borrow pit. So even if this commission were to say, well, we'll make these decisions, well, these guys here are going to have a lot to say about it because they've got some stipulations to maintain their levee, you know.
And they included the drainage ditches, which some of them with Valley Spring was on yours, but we, the Joint Levee Commission owns that, but it should rightfully be the Levee District 3.
Yeah. We're not talking about any of that. We're talking about up.
Well, true, but
Up inside the levee.
that is part of what we Levee District 3 was led to believe, or at least I was from day one, that when this is all done, we'll have own the real estate that the levee sits on, and all the easements and rights of ways and flooding rights. We own the flooding rights also, which permits and was paid per acre per year for through courts for the loss of crops by us flooding, but we have perpetual right to do that. And it was approved by the courts, and it was a lot of stacks of paper, a lot of trees. So, any further comments? If not, I'll call for a point of order for the
Roll call vote?
roll call vote.
Tom Oakenfoos,
Yes.
Vern Bowman,
Yes.
Joe Siebert,
No.
Tom Krensley,
Yes.
Gary Smith,
Yes.
Jeff Eidman.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Any other comments from anybody?
I'd just like to say, I'm not against this deal with Fish and Wildlife, not at all. It's probably a great deal. I'm just not ready to give up our interest in that property, whatever it is. And that's why I voted no.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate your opinion, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And I honor that.
Yep.
Respect that. Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion on the floor and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you, everyone.
I shake your all hands, but COVID season, I'll just kind of give you a fist bump. Thank you for showing up.